Jake Ludington here at OpenStack Days Seattle, and I'm here with Lisa Marie Namphy from HPE. And among the many of the things that you do, you run a user community in San Francisco around OpenStack. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the San Francisco Bay Area user group, it was the first one. So it's also the largest one. We have over 6,000 members, and we meet usually twice a month, sometimes even more. So it's a very active user group. If anyone wants to join, meetup.com/OpenStack. We were the first, so we got to steal that. And a lot of the founders of OpenStack are part of our user community. So I get to feature them at meetups a lot. We have very, very lively discussions. We have amazing content. And it's not just PTLs and contributors to OpenStack. We also get customers that come and speak, vendors that come and speak. We don't let them do a vendor pitch. We keep it very community organized, or community oriented. But it's a fun community, it's a vibrant community, and it's an incredibly passionate community. And I've been running it now for me personally, I've been running it for 3 years. So I have a lot of experience with this particular community, and it's a lot of fun.
So, while it's a lot of fun, I'm sure there are some challenges in running a community. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you face in running a community like that?
There are a lot of challenges. And I'm happy to dive deep into them, so let me know what you want to hear. But I think one of the things we've tried to do with our community is I realize not every user group is a community. And with the nature of OpenStack and open source in general, it doesn't survive unless you have a very solid community. So it's really up to our user group managers and our community architects to make sure that we keep this user group as a community, that we have people contributing, that it's not just a one-way street, and that we keep our members active and involved. Diversity is a huge, huge thing for community building, because your community is only as innovative as it is diverse, and it's only as creative and effective as it is diverse.
Maybe we should unpack there a little bit, because I know that's a big conversation, particularly in Silicon Valley, where we both live. What specifically do you do to kind of help address diversity and make people feel welcomed?
Yeah, okay, and by the way, diversity is not just gender. Everybody says, oh, you do the Women of OpenStack things, and I do, but it goes well beyond just gender, and because you want the different types of minds, to be contributing. So one of the things that we do, because gender is a big part of it, is like with someone, the fact that I run the user group helps a lot, because the women that come know that there's going to be another woman there that's going to be able to introduce them around to the community and get them involved. Sometimes people are just afraid of approaching someone that doesn't look like them, or it's a little bit daunting, or if you're new to OpenStack, you're already maybe daunted by some of the technology and how large OpenStack is and all the different projects. And people come to these meetups to learn and to get involved, and then they just get overwhelmed. So what I do is when I recognize new members of the user group, and particularly women or people of color, or somebody who might have a disability or a reason that they're not going to feel maybe as comfortable, they don't see anyone else in the room that looks like them, I immediately go over there, meet them, introduce them, figure out what about OpenStack they're really interested in, which projects are they interested in. Maybe I can connect them with the PTL of that project, so that next time they're online during an IRC, during one of the meetings, they can make a connection there, and then the managers or the PTLs of those groups can reach out to them, or the core contributors. It's all about making people feel welcome and involved. And it's up to all of us as community architects, or as core contributors or PTLs, to really recognize who is in our community, and to reach out to those folks that are not as represented, and make sure the underrepresented groups are feeling welcome and are actively contributing. Because if you don't keep someone actively contributing, they're probably going to drop out of the community, and then the community fails ultimately.
So how do you get people who maybe are curious about OpenStack, and they may lurk either online or even in person? There are people that lurk probably isn't the right word in person, but they maybe are kind of hanging back on the sidelines and not actively engaged. How do you get them actively engaged?
Well, one of the things, the content is always what brings people. And so always really, really good content. The technology is why we're all here, so it has to be good technology content. But I always make sure when I'm presenting, or when I'm helping someone with their slides, the examples that they're using, the things that they say, that the presentation really reflects the world that we live in. And it doesn't just show kind of a one-sided, stale, male, and pale, as we sometimes refer to it, where I just see still too many slides. Putting pretty pictures of different types of people, different looking people is good, but also talking about like different examples. If you've got a lot of young people, take a reference from like a game or a young, something that the young kids are into, reference a movie or a TV show or something that you probably have to do your research if you're me and you're not really cool and you don't know about those things. But I just try to make sure that that I'm reaching out to different types, and it's not always the same presentation all the time. And getting different presenters will go a long way to doing that. It helps that I'm me, but if your person running your user group or manage your community is not from an underrepresented part of the demographics, then they have to work harder to get someone that is to be presenting, so that the presentation doesn't always look the same and the slides don't always look the same. And when people are seeing that on stage and they're hearing it, it's going to resonate with them. And it's just all about being yourself as well. Be your true authentic self and not being afraid of that. And that was really hard for me to do when I stood up there, because I thought there was an expectation to kind of conform and look the certain way that things had always looked. And it wasn't until I realized I should just be me, because I have a lot of value to add, that I saw that really start resonating with people, and it's an attractive thing.
So are there any other sorts of things you would recommend to people who are trying to build their own community out there?
Yeah, I recommend getting help to do it, because it's a lot of work. If you try to do it yourself, you will hit burnout. Even if you try to do it with only one other person, you will burn out so fast. It's really, really, really hard work, and it's kind of one of those thankless jobs that people don't really recognize, and unless you've done it, people don't recognize how hard it is. So if you're thinking of doing it, know that you're just going to have to put in the time. This is not something you can just phone in. I always tell people, if you're trying to build a community, you need to be part of that community. You need to be extremely actively involved. And it tends to be a nights and weekends job for most of us. We all have different corporations that pay our mortgages, but and understanding that it's a nights and weekends job, then even more potential for burnout. So get help. Don't try to do it by yourself. Get a team together. And it's, again, content. I mean, whether it's just the meetups or the discussions, just don't waste people's time. We are in technology because we love technology. We're drawn to OpenStack because it's hot technology. And then what are the hottest trends? So today on stage we were talking about containers. When I knew I was going to be doing the keynote, I didn't even take 2 seconds to think about what I wanted to talk about, because that's what the conversation has been all summer. And 4 of my last 5 meetups have basically been around containers and OpenStack. Containers on OpenStack, OpenStack on containers, every which way you can do it. And no one's getting tired of the discussion. The one meetup I had that wasn't, it was on networking. The first question I got when I stood on stage was, is it Docker or Kubernetes? What's better? What's going to win? And I said, okay, that was last week's meetup, and it's going to be next week's meetup. Tonight we're talking about networking. That's all anyone wants to talk about. But understand that, okay, I hear you. Now I've got, cool community people coming back in next time to talk more about containers. Whereas last summer the whole conversation was about networking. People couldn't get enough of it. So understand the content that people are starved for and give it to them.
That's it. That sounds like a good solution. On the circling back to OpenStack, what would you want people to know more about the OpenStack community, both the one that you run and the broader OpenStack community?
Well, there is one OpenStack community, so we'll just, it all is, we have the San Francisco Bay Area chapter, let's put it that way, but even in our user group, because we live stream a lot of the meetups out, I know there's a large number of those 6,000 people that are international, that don't actually live in the Bay Area. And so I know when I'm emailing out, discounts to a conference in San Francisco, it's going to people all over the world. But again, I respect people in the community, so the content that goes out is usually very valuable, and everyone can get something out of it. But I mean, the OpenStack is, we've talked about this before. It's not just a community. It's not just technology. It's actually a movement. We're here at OpenStack Seattle. The room was packed. Everyone took a day off work to come here on a Friday. OpenStack Silicon Valley was on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, I think, and thousands of people flew into the Valley or came to Mountain View 2 days midweek to talk about infrastructure. That still blows my mind. I mean, this is a movement. It's gone well beyond just technology, and it's that way because of the community that we've built.
It definitely seems like a great community. Thanks, Lisa Marie.
It's a lot of fun. Great people. Come join us.